In less than 2 weeks, I played almost 50 hours of Tears of the Kingdom. Let's talk about it. Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. I finally figured out the lighting, as you can see. Please be proud of me, I'm very sensitive, okay? I remember when Breath of the Wild first came out. I was but a wee little 8th grader in 2017, and I had just gotten my Switch just after release day. I fell in love with Breath of the Wild immediately. It was such a magical experience. I spent months and months continuing to play the game and beating all the shrines, doing all the DLC, doing the Trial of the Sword. So when Tears of the Kingdom was announced, I was so excited for this game. I was counting down the days. And so now that it's finally out, what do I think about it? I just want to talk about the overall experience as a whole and how I feel about it. I'm not going to be spoiling the game beyond the first 15 minutes of story details. I will be talking about gameplay elements that will bring us probably into the late game, but I won't be talking about any story spoilers, so you can be safe with that. The opening of this game was one of the best I've ever seen in gaming. You're exploring tunnels underneath Hyrule Castle with Zelda. Zelda keeps talking about how this place is forbidden. It's been forbidden for years. Nobody is supposed to go down there, yet you two are down there anyway, trying to investigate the gloom, which seems to be infecting the people of Hyrule and making them sick. Once you finally reach the end of these tunnels, there's a set of murals that describe the Demon King and his reign over Hyrule. This was such like a hype moment. I mean, obviously we know Ganondorf is coming if you've seen any of the trailers, but to just see him like hyped up in game as this sort of like huge evil entity, it was so exciting. It was so exciting to see. And when you finally reach Ganondorf at the end of the tunnels, it was a slaughter. The Master Sword is shattered. Zelda falls down a pit with this secret stone. Ganondorf falls down as well. We don't know where he ended up. We don't know where Zelda ended up. But we do know that we need to stop Ganondorf. And with that premise setting up the game, we're in for a wild ride. A wild and emotional ride. So a while later, Link wakes up on the Great Sky Island, which is basically the Great Plateau equivalent of this game. You explore the entire island, you get acclimated to different weather conditions all around the game, and as well as your new Ultra Hand abilities. Gone are the Sheikah stuff, and new you have the Ultra Hand runes and the Zonai shrines. The Ultra Hand abilities include Ascend, Ultra Hand, Fusion, and Recall. You also learn about this new concept in the game called building. This game is basically Minecraft, where you can just combine any part in the game. If you want to combine a rocket to a wood plank, you can do that. You can do whatever you want. This is such a deep game mechanic because, I mean, I'm not an engineer, but I've seen on Twitter they make like giant mechs, they make giant robots, they make the craziest machines. The sky is the limit here, honestly. I mean, I've seen what people have done with Breath of the Wild and how they've like broken the physics engine of that game. So here I'm excited to see what this game's going to be like in like say 3 years, when people have been fully accustomed to how the physics work in this game and they fully understand how to abuse it and make the craziest machines possible that completely break the game. So like I said before, this game has shrines like Breath of the Wild did. I think they're considerably easier than Breath of the Wild. I mean, they're different sometimes, like gone are the Test of Strength shrines. Instead, you have these shrines that basically teach you different types of combat and how to go about the different systems in the game, which I think work a lot better than the Test of Strength, even though I did enjoy those. They were definitely harder than they needed to be at some points, and I know a lot of people didn't like them. These shrines also allow for a lot more creativity this time around. I mean, there's been a lot of shrines where I feel like I'm breaking the game by beating it in the way that I did. Even though what I'm doing was probably the intended solution, I feel like by using the different abilities that Link has in creative ways, you really feel like you're coming up with something unique and new, and that's really a great feeling in a puzzle game. So also gone are the Sheikah Towers. Instead we have these, I guess they are still Sheikah Towers, but they're called the Skyview Towers. These towers, basically you get on a platform and they launch you up in the air like you're some sort of skydiver. Once Link's in the air, he can take a survey of the whole area and get it on his map, and then he can also glide to wherever his next destination is. Where are we dropping, boys? It's been a number of years since Breath of the Wild, both in real life and in the in-game universe. It's not said quite like how long it's been since Breath of the Wild, but you can see it's been a number of years, because you can see the kid characters have grown up in the different villages, the new champion characters have grown up. If you explore the different villages across Hyrule, you can see how their architecture has changed considerably. In Hateno Village, you can see that Link's house from Breath of the Wild is now Zelda's house, seemingly. presumably they're living there together. Link and Zelda are dating. Like, there's no way around it. They are together. This Hyrule really feels like Link isn't alone this time as well, because the world is a lot more populated given that the calamity is over, and there's some additions to gameplay that really help give the idea that Link isn't alone. You have literal allies in battle this time around, and it feels like such a grand experience. It reminds me of Age of Calamity, which I assume is kind of where this mechanic originated from, at least in idea. It's exactly what I wanted from Breath of the Wild, because the champions, they, for lack of a better reference, they reminded me of the Avengers. And I wanted a game where you get to fight with all of them in tandem and just take down enemies together. So getting to have that with this game, it's such a cool experience. It feels so grand, and I loved every step of the way. The world map has also had 2 additions in elevation, you might say. There's plenty of sky islands in the sky. These have different Zonai ruins, different shrines, all sorts of different challenges. They're really fun, and even though they're not quite as big as like the main world of Hyrule, obviously, just because that'd be weird if there was like a giant island covering the entire sky. Additionally, there's the depths area, which basically spans the entire underground of Hyrule. This they didn't talk about in the trailers or like any like pre-game info at all. It was mainly just left up to players to experience when they first started playing the game. And these areas are so cool. It's so dark down here, you can't see like literally anything. And the enemies, they're way more powerful. They're way scarier looking. Like, these are the creatures that the Bible warned us about, guys. I was fighting down there the other day. There's like this special challenge where you can get the Majora's Mask from the game Majora's Mask. For this challenge, you're in a coliseum and you have to fight like 4 superpowered Lionels and take them down back to back. It made me feel like I was lore accurate Link. Link wasn't fighting the Lionels. The Lionels were fighting Link. They told us originally that they were reusing the map from Breath of the Wild, but ultimately they didn't do that. They took that as a base, obviously, but then they expanded so much upon it. It's honestly like an entirely new world. And it's been like 6 years since Breath of the Wild anyway, so honestly I didn't really remember a lot of the areas, even though I played Breath of the Wild a ton over the years. So it was basically just an entire new experience of getting to see this version of Hyrule and getting to see what it has to offer. So before I wrap here, I just want to touch on the story and give my overall thoughts on it in a very vague sense so that I'm not spoiling anything, obviously. This was such a cool, like, mystery story, getting to find out the lore behind Ganondorf and where he was during Breath of the Wild and why he's here now, finally getting to face off against him for the final boss. It was everything I wanted from this fight and more. I imagined what I wanted this version of Ganondorf to be, and Nintendo delivered on every front. I was so impressed by this game, and I'm pretty heartless, honestly, so whenever I see movies or games, I don't cry. I just think, that was pretty moving. But I don't really have an emotional reaction, as you might say. But this game got me, and I honestly didn't even want to like return to the world after seeing that ending because it just felt wrong in a way. Obviously, it's been a few days now, and I'm back to playing the game, but it's so much better than Breath of the Wild. So obviously, there's a lot I didn't touch on here. I both don't want to spoil the game, and also there's so much left for me to still do. What I will say is that if Pikmin didn't exist, this would probably be my favorite game of all time, because this was such a great experience. I beat the game very quickly. Every step of it was so fun. I was having a blast the whole time, and I can't wait to continue exploring this Hyrule, and maybe we'll get another game in this Breath of the Wild series. This game gave me the chance to explore Breath of the Wild's Hyrule again for the first time, which is something I never really thought I would get to experience again. And I just want to thank you for that, Nintendo. This was such a cool experience, and I wish there was a way I could experience this game for the first time again. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please consider giving a like and subscribing. Until next time, I'll catch you later.